All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Contributor Growth Working Group for TAG Contributor Strategy. This is March 23rd, 2023. Just a reminder that this meeting is recorded and it falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct. And it will be posted on YouTube later today. So just keep that in mind. Do we have new faces that we need to do introductions with? What do you think,
Lori
Dawn?
said she's having some sound issues, so I think we'll wait until she.
Okay.
I think maybe you can hear me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, it's trouble or something. So I will pull up the agenda on this browser. Are you ready for me to go on? I think I heard you were.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me just share my screen.
Here, let me stop sharing. There you go.
Oh gosh, maybe it's not going to allow me. Hold on.
If you send me a link, I can share it on my screen if it's something.
Yeah,
I
just put the links in the agenda doc, so that everything is there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just go back to sharing. You tell me if you need me to switch to something else, okay?
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I guess we just go in the line. I tried to organize them so that it would be easy.
Okay.
So just to preface what I will talk to you about is that basically I collected a couple of roadmap examples for different formats, and we'll just highlight a couple of features about each one. And then I thought the group could discuss what you like, what you don't like, what you think is practical, and then you decide what you want to do. I can help you with that decision. So there are mainly proprietary product oriented roadmaps here, but a lot of them can be adapted for open source use. And in my own work, I've tried to adapt details and features of roadmaps like these to help teams. And then I've included GitHub's project board roadmap because I think it's a great example of what you can do with the project boards, and also that I think will be quite practical for groups to easily and automatically spin up their roadmaps. So if we go to the first link, I would just call this one detailed. And if you scroll down to this table, I think this is quite useful because it really emphasizes the why aspects of what a team is delivering. In my experiences in open source and not just all kinds of product development, there's often a lot of emphasis on what to build, and the why is quite frequently missing. And so what I liked about this roadmap format is that it puts why front and center, and it also connects the deliverables to a longer term vision. So if a project team is really hoping to build out their project over time and kind of stay focused on what it is they want to build and not, and work with the community around that, then making the vision very clear is a good idea because it will help them create a boundary between what to consider from the community and then what not to. And it also gives the community a heads up, like, your idea is great, but it doesn't fit our vision. So it enables the maintainers to kind of respond and guide the potential contributors' energy into a more positive and productive direction that will benefit both. What is also cool about this roadmap is it highlights the challenge or the core issue that is to be solved. And for contributors, that can be helpful information when they look at a project, because it's telling them, okay, what makes this project different from others that I've seen that seem similar? And what is this project actually trying to do for the user? And then a target condition here is quite useful in that it's a measurable impact indicator. And so not to go too much more into detail on this one, but just if you look at the sections that it highlights in the left column, the hypothesis or the problem statement, and the outcomes that the team is striving for. This often also goes missing in open source text. Like, what are we trying to achieve? It may be very clear for the person proposing the issue, but it may not be so clear for the group. So making that outcome language very obvious in a place is good information for contributors to have. And then the status, you don't necessarily need to track this in a roadmap if you're using a GitHub project board. And then the priority, so that the group knows what's most important, and so, the secondary and tertiary goals. So that's one view. If we head down to the next link, which I've called not as detailed.
Okay.
Thank you so much. If you just scroll down to, yes, like this visual here. This is quite similar in some ways, and that it doesn't have all the spelled out details as the table did in the first example. But what is really nice about this is that it's very simple. And if you wanted to paste this image somewhere prominent in like the README or another markdown file, then you could do so. And what's helpful here is that it very simply spells out what we're doing now, what comes next, and then what comes later. And so any contributor that's stopping by a repository and doesn't want to read lots of details, they just want to see a quick snapshot of what's to come, this kind of visual provides that for them. I think that's all I will say about this one because it's pretty basic.
It's a little different from this more detailed one. The detailed one, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't really say how we intend to achieve these outcomes. Is that right? Am I seeing that right? Or does it actually list
No,
any
it doesn't.
type of effort? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
So yeah, this is this doesn't do that either. It tells you basically the features that they want to create in this product. You can always list the how details, like your GitHub issues, either in a project board view, or you could list them in a page, although that gets quite manual and tedious and doesn't allow for frequent updates. So for the how details, the technical implementation, I would really rely on GitHub automation to take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We go to outline next?
Yeah. Thank you. So I've used this one a lot when working with teams, and they don't always adopt it. In fact, they often don't, but that's okay. As long as they extract the detail, the text, the context of this doc, what it's trying to emphasize, then they're fine. But what I like about this format is it tells a story, and it's in a very nicely structured format. It highlights your big high-level goals and themes, and then it just breaks those down into details without going into too much detail. So, for a quarter or a release, you could say, okay, here's, if you scroll up a bit
Sure.
to the top, yeah, no problem. Like, here's the primary focus for what we're trying to achieve right now. And it's highlighting 2 goals with outcome-based language. Like, we want to make these impacts. And that's quite useful because it's not just a thing that we want to do, it's an outcome we want to achieve. That's quite prominent in the first line. The second line is more vague. It's a preparation step, but that's kind of setting up the team for their goal in the future, their primary goal to come. And then as it highlights here, it says don't list more than 3 goals. It's very good for teams to just focus on a few things. And I know that teams really struggle with this a lot, but the fewer things that they do, the faster the work goes, because it removes all the context switching, and it also helps teams to swarm around achieving a discrete number of things as opposed to everybody kind of going off and doing their own thing. And then if you look at the deliverables section, this speaks to the primary focus goals at the top. It also nicely just highlights that the estimates are indicated there. And then it's taking that first goal, the primary goal up top, and breaking that down into some concrete steps to achieve that goal. And so what is the deliverable and why is it the deliverable? And it highlights a variety of whys. User feedback. The second one is kind of an experiment. They think they could achieve some impact. And then the same for the third one, which is trying out and seeing if their input, the research is actually going to result in moving the needle. And then for the second primary goal from the top, they have this, again, the same layout. Just very briefly, what is the goal and why? And what are the items themselves? Like what are the broken down items? And when you break down items like this, then it helps you actually to estimate more accurately. Like the further you break things down, the more work that you know you have to do. And that means that if you're shooting for a release or some goal in time, you increase your chances of hitting that goal because you don't get stuck in the middle or at the end, like, oh no, it's actually this thing we wanted to do is actually a lot harder than we thought, and it's going to take more time. And then if you scroll further below, yeah, it just tells you like how you list the deliverables and what to specify, and we covered that. And then this is really important too. I think any good roadmap tells you what is not in scope and what is not being worked on. So knowing what you aren't and what you're not building is very helpful for, again, setting the boundary for your project. And it's also great information to communicate to contributors because then they won't come with a lot of feature requests that are just not useful, not what you're looking for. This roadmap puts a quick line about risks, so known risks. And of course, there's always a risk in open source that people who are working on something will no longer be able to work on something because their life circumstances change or the job circumstances. So having something in the roadmap by the team to say, this piece of work is really important for us, but we know that there's a risk because the people who are working on it may have other things going on. Here's our backup plan. Here's to make sure that we still achieve the goal. We'll onboard other contributors so they gain the technical skills so that if the team working on this, somebody has to bow out, then we can bring in that new contributor. And then requests for other teams. So if the project team is working in a very complex landscape like Kubernetes is with lots of different groups, then making those needs clear at the beginning can help the group plan how to manage those dependencies. And then there's a tracking table at the bottom, but again, GitHub takes care of that. So I'll try to go through, I think there's only one more non-GitHub project board example that I called out, and that is the one under vision goal execution. If you could, yeah, thank you. So this is more of a to-do list, but it's tied together by context in the first row. And what I liked about this is that it connects the dots between the broad vision for like the year or the year and a half or whatever lengthy time interval, and then the more concrete quarter or release oriented goal, like what is the primary goal for this release, the primary goal for this shorter period of time, and then the execution status is again tracking, so we can kind of ignore that and let GitHub do its magic. But this view, if you were to create a table like this and copy and paste it and highlight it somewhere prominently, then contributors could see, okay, I see everything. I see what this project is going toward. I see what they want to achieve right now, and then the deliverables that make up that goal. And then I guess this example just spells out the details of the first item. So then you would just do the rest for the other items, and then anything on hold, you would just note, if your scope changes, your priorities change, you just store all the initially planned work down there. And then that's it for the templates. And then the last couple are more GitHub related. So I just, link to the GitHub project board roadmap. So I think this is quite effective, and I've seen other open source project maintainers or people doing like the product role in a project. I've seen them use this format and have success with it. What's nice about it is it's showing every quarterly backlog, and it starts at the left with the soonest time frame, and then as you go right, it's going farther out down the calendar. And it allows you to store all of the issues in one place. It's obviously dynamic and automated, and any contributor could go here and see exactly what you're planning. Now, this view doesn't obviously give you a lot of that context about the bigger picture. So that's why I recommend, if possible, using both some kind of visual, like what we just looked at, plus the project board. And if you click one of these items, like the first one, I think what's really nice about this issue template is it's fairly simple. It just gives you, okay, what are we trying to do? What's our outcome? When do we know we've achieved our goal? And then how will it work? And then that's where they can get into detail about the functionality and also even technical details. So that's pretty.
Can they link
neat.
to other issues from this? Like if could I get other issues to show up in this, or does that make
You sh-
sense? Like to see what you're working towards on each one, or
You should
does
be
it
able
not-
to. So
Okay.
I haven't been super active in upstream for a few months, and in between that time, GitHub had rolled out new features where you can have a table view. That had been in beta, and now I know that it's being used by, I think the Kubernetes enhancements team uses this.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what I know that they wanted to do actual, like, show you the status of issues with the icon, the purple and green, and I've actually seen that be available. And I know that before this, like where it would be in the description of an issue, I know that before that you could see the colors of a pull request or issue change, whether it was closed or a merge pull request, you could see that right away.
Yeah, I think some of the projects that I worked on, probably Kubernetes, had like umbrella issues, which
Yeah.
had a whole bunch
Yeah.
of different links. So you could kind of tie things together
Yes.
for bigger themes, and then have individual issues for some of the detailed work.
Exactly. And you can create those umbrella issues, like putting all of the issues in the description field in one place. And then that's kind of like your plan for it's kind of like an epic in Jira. It's a bigger body of work that requires many steps. And you can put all of those issues that you identify the breakdown in that description field, and then create a checklist. And as you finish things, the items, you can just check each item off, or it will do it automatically.
Oh, yeah, I
with
think-
with the light, but also with the latest updates that they have for on GitHub projects, you cross-referencing between different repos has become much easier, so you can pull things
Yes.
in from everywhere.
Yeah.
Previously it was hard because then you have to have in every repo a board, and then you have cross-linking work that doesn't show up. So that's getting real nice. So this is
Exactly.
I really like this one that Alexander posted, how they use the checkboxes
Mhm.
to do this. And I think in the latest GitHub, like there's been changes and improvements that if you just put in the ID, like
Yeah.
the issue number,
Yeah.
it'll put the title in for you.
Yes. Yes.
And tell you the status. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
that
that's,
would work really well.
yeah, I wasn't sure if that was rolled out to all GitHub users, but that was what they were working toward. And that's really great because yeah, everything is done for you. You used to have to do it like this, very manual, and put the links
This is
in.
it.
And Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah,
look at that.
yeah, exactly.
So like you could do this inside of the description for these roadmap issues to kind of
Mhm.
mimic an epic.
Mhm.
Is that what you're suggesting? Okay.
Yeah, you could also even, instead of a markdown file, which you would have to update as things
Mhm.
change, you could just do all of that in a GitHub, open GitHub issue with the description field and all of your roadmap goals posted there. And then as you get things done, it will just automatically update and save you a lot of manual time, manual work. So,
You would still
and if
have the
you,
project board though, right? But they would
Mhm.
be real issues backing. But
You have
would
to
you use these roll-up issues like a billing usage API that links to a whole bunch or no?
It depends on what kind of view you're going towards. So, the project board you have to still set up yourself, but
Mhm.
so yeah, once you get your columns and everything in order, and your automatic setup to trigger items going into the backlog, then you're good there. And then if you want to just really highlight like your epics, you could
Mhm.
just use your project board to highlight those. And if you wanted to put the other tasks in there, I think that gets hard to look at.
Okay. I think that's one question I had. If this isn't a good time to ask questions, I'll save it for later.
No, go ahead. No,
Okay.
pretty much done.
Yeah, I feel like some of these roadmap templates are really optimized for communicating information internally to the project or team. And some I think are better optimized for external communication. Like this one, as someone on the team, too high level for me, right?
Mhm.
But where's that really wordy one? This one. This
Mhm.
one, I feel like isn't scannable like some of the others, and it's more for someone who came on the project and understand the whys and everything. Do you have thoughts about which type projects should maintain an internally focused one like this versus an externally focused one, or some middle ground between the two?
I
Because they're
might.
both all roadmaps, but I feel like they serve very different purposes, these different templates.
I mean, one way to strike a compromise would be to put the colorful visual version at the top of a more detailed roadmap like this. And then I might make this kind of roadmap a little bit shorter. Like I don't think that they should be longer than a page and a half, 2 pages printed out, because people just get overwhelmed. But yeah, you could put the visual right front and center at top, and then have the, read more, and then have more details for the text. The longer version should map to what's in the visual, so everything makes sense to the contributors. But yeah,
And since part of what we need to do is, eventually put together some how-to documents for, advice for CNCF projects on how to build their own roadmap, I think we're probably going to need multiple options, I think, for different types of projects. So I think this is a really useful discussion, and kind of seeing some of the different options, because we will, I think of it kind of like governance, right? You can't just have one governance model that fits every project. I think we're going to have a few options for roadmaps.
I did about 2 years ago for Kubernetes, a process doc, and it covers some of the road mapping there. Wonder if it would be possible to lift some of that at least.
Oh, that would be awesome. Can you drop the link to that on that issue?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now because it's been a while since I looked at it. I think it's in the steering committee area. It might take me a little bit of time to find it. I think
whenever, just drop it in the issue whenever you find it. It doesn't need to be during this meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
This is really helpful. Thank you for, wow, if you had asked me, I couldn't have named more than 2 different types of roadmaps. This is
Yeah,
great.
I mean, it's always what resonates with a team, and it's always going to be different based on that. And it's great you're saying about how different situations require different formats. Like, that's totally true. The quick glance view, the more detailed view. I think the goals, the tricks are to like have the information presented for different audiences without requiring a lot of manual updates. So that's why I think visualizations can be really great, but if they change a lot, then I wouldn't go that route, because you'll just be updating the images a lot and it just easily gets out of date.
Yeah.
So if you're really dynamic, moving fast, changing the goals frequently, then relying on GitHub automation is probably the best bet. And then using a GitHub issue with all of the narrative and that, because then it's probably likely that you're going to be using that issue in your community meetings and any other discussion. So it's going to be looked at more frequently than, say, some markdown file with the roadmap described as a narrative.
Yeah. So is there any more we want to talk about with, because we kind of have 2 different things that as a group we want to achieve. One is providing external guidance to other projects about 1 or more templates and advice for making a roadmap and keeping it up to date. And the other thing on the agenda that we wanted to discuss is our own roadmap for tag contributor strategy. And in particular, I was hoping we could discuss for this working group, what would be on our roadmap. Dawn's already provided some of that for governance and things like that. And Rian for mentoring. What are our larger goals for this group this year? And not aspirational, but what we think we're really going to deliver. And I was wondering if anyone had thoughts on that, either from what the TOC needs from us. There's a time-based component, and just what are people interested in working on? So where do we think we're going to be making progress?
So this is something that I have a question that maybe Larry can help answer as well, and help us build the roadmap. How long do you think those sessions to build a roadmap and find the objectives and the timelines and whatnot, how long do you think that should take, and what's your thoughts on the timing of that
Sure.
that planning session?
Sure. So I always try to start these initiatives asynchronously with a doc where everybody can put their ideas. So you could use a Google Doc with some of the high level goals, like just as a list, and then have everybody put their notes underneath those. And then I think what helps structure the asynchronous communication is to take some of those concepts from the roadmaps I showed you about the outcome and the core deliverables and the problems to be solved, or problem rather. Usually just having one is best. Having that as a template inside your Google Doc under each main theme or broad goal. And then that's where you make sure that you're building a well-rounded vision for that item. And then it also helps the whole team think about the different aspects of delivering that goal.
And do you suggest any synchronous communication after they're defining like the first?
Yeah, I would say send out your doc and then give people a week to brain dump and add their ideas. And then someone or 2 people take a look at that doc at the end of the week, clean it up, structure it for a group conversation, and then just review that doc in a community meeting. If you can get done with that in one meeting, that's what I would shoot for. You may have some run over, so it may take 2 meetings, but I would try to just keep it to 1. And I don't know if any of you or all of you have worked with Miro in the past or some kind of whiteboarding tool like that, but that can also be really easy to just have people post post-its, digital post-its underneath different concepts. And I've used that in SIG release quite a lot. Because what's also cool about that is that you can drag, you can put the GitHub issues that are already in your backlog, you can just put them in your Miro directly and get like the full title and a little bit of the descriptive text to appear. You can also easily move things around. I find it a lot more enjoyable to use than the Google Doc and moving things around and collecting feedback from groups.
Yeah. So do you think we have so the workflow would be somewhat like get first thoughts and whatnot, then give people some time to digest that, have a group meeting, and then the group meeting would be probably on Miro or something like that, where we have like shop and session to decide the roadmap. And then after that, what do you think would be the next step? Do we keep things on Miro as they were in the group meeting, or do we transfer everything that was noted on the Miro board to GitHub or to a Markdown document? Or
yeah, I mean, one thing you could do is if you feel like keeping the Miro link open to the public, then that allows you to change your visual very easily, as opposed to making a visual there in Miro or some other place, taking a snapshot, uploading that to a repo. You can just continuously edit your Miro and the link is there and people can see the latest version. And then I would also transfer the Miro data into a more readable format. So like the GitHub issue that would spell out all of your deliverables, your plan for the future. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. Here's one thing that I think I see lots of teams, like I see fewer teams do this, but this is like the essence of delivering value. Building in user feedback loops as you go. So say you make your roadmap template for other projects. Build in as part of your work a mechanism to continuously collect the feedback on that template to see how people are using it, where they're getting stuck, which aspects they just can't use because they don't know how. They need more help.
From the template itself, or from the roadmap?
I would say any of your roadmap goals, build in that mechanism, plan for that, plan for your feedback loop.
Yep. So, but for the goals and whatnot, not the template, or both, or?
Well, I mean, it's good to have a feedback loop for the roadmap itself. Like if anybody has ideas from the community, like, hey, I saw you want to create this template or do this mentoring thing, like here's some feedback. That's quite useful too, like the overall picture. But then also as you're going about delivering your roadmap goals, think as one of the deliverables, that feedback loop and how you would collect that feedback and make it easy for the team to intercept the feedback, process it, and act on it. So it's kind of like a meta feedback loop and then more goal-specific feedback loops built in so that you can continuously improve what you've been working on and shipping.
Yep. Great. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks for the questions.
To have that.
Yeah. Thanks for the questions.
Is anyone interested in kicking off and starting that async document for our working group to discuss what should be on our roadmap? I mean, I don't know if we can come up with it here. I still think that maybe there's not all the right people here to say, deliver, you know, this is exactly what the contributor growth working group is working on.
I have
Unless
briefly,
people do have things.
I have done some work since last week, collecting links and things. So yeah, if people feed the information, I can collect it together for discussion in the next week or two.
I'm sorry, your
Yeah, that would be
audio,
great.
I'm having trouble hearing. Are you volunteering to make that document that we were discussing or something else?
I'm sorry, is my audio really bad? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I can.
Okay. Yes, I can start putting the document together if you can feed me some of the information that's already gathered. Well, I already started a document. That's just a draft last week.
okay, great.
Yeah, that would be great. I think one thing that we can do also is just get the first thoughts and get the list of things that we have in mind, and then go to the next step where we just ask for feedback and ask for like everyone that we think would be an stakeholder and have an opinion on this. And then we get their thoughts, their feedback, and then we could discuss the final, have the next step of like the group meeting that we were talking about. Then we can have that on the next meeting to kind of finalize the roadmap and think of the timelines. Yeah.
Alexander, would you like to help run, or maybe you just type that in? Are you interested in helping run this process of defining the tags roadmap?
Yep. Yeah, we can do
Okay,
that.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure that I understand at all times if we're talking about templates, which is different, or our own tags roadmap. That's how.
Yeah. Our own tag, we can do this. Yeah, but from thinking of from the template side and whatnot, but for our roadmap.
Okay. Oh no, we're having fight club over my typos. That's cool. Okay, this sounds great. Are there any other thoughts about roadmaps before we maybe chat about some other things? Okay. Next up on the agenda was wait 1 second. I want to see what this is and put this in here. Oh, okay. So the CNCF Code of Conduct Committee is slowly working through the process of defining what this committee should look like and how it should be represented across different groups. And the proposal is that our tag contributor strategy, not just the working group here that we're in, but the larger tag, will appoint one primary representative. And the primary is who by default is handling any responsibilities on the committee. And then when they are unable to work on an incident, for example, there's a conflict of interest or health problems, whatever, life, then the alternate could step in and help. And there's more details about how that works in that pull request there. And so what we would like to do, and I'd like to get people thinking about this, is we need to, as a tag, identify a primary and an alternate, and figure out who we would like to appoint. So if you're interested in this, I think the best step would be to let the tag chairs know. That's Dawn, Josh, and Catherine. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to hijack your agenda, but this seemed like a good place to kick off that discussion since it came in via email this week.
Oh, I had no idea you were the one who added it. Is there anything else you want to say? I'm so sorry.
No, that I have no context on it. I got the same email you did. But I thought we could at least talk about it here and see if anybody wanted to throw their name in the hat.
Yeah. Is anyone interested? Does this sound like being on a code of conduct committee? Is this something that someone would like to participate in, either as the primary or the alternate? No decisions have to be made now. I was just curious if anyone was super pumped about that.
I mean, I might throw my hat in the ring as an alternate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my schedule looks like right now. So
Yeah, I would say that, so I was on the Kubernetes Code of Conduct Committee for its very first term. And my experience was that there's a lot more to do beyond addressing incidents and concerns for people on the first term. Like that first year, I feel like the time commitment is a little bit larger than that. So they will most likely expect regular reviewing of PRs like the one we just linked here, or syncing up with the committee to kind of move forward and understand training, how do we deal with things, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of like groundwork being laid. So it is a real time commitment. I personally don't have that time, and I would recommend someone who is not already engaged a ton, like leading initiatives elsewhere. This may be too much time to try to do both well. Just my gut, having done this before a few times. So that's great to hear that we have people who are interested though in working on this.
perhaps we should take that conversation to Slack.
Yeah. And I think we'll make sure this is on the next general tag meeting. I don't think we don't need to appoint someone like right now, because we're still in the proposal phase for having representatives from our group, but we'd like to be ready, and have time to talk to people and vet and have a plan for when hopefully it does go through. So one thing that was at the top of the agenda, just because I'm bad at bullet points, I was talking to Catherine today because I didn't think I was going to make this meeting, and I was like, "Oh, will you please help run it?" And we realized collectively that Catherine had to step down from being a facilitator for this group. We've removed her from the README. This change happened months ago, and I don't know, missed the memo. Apologize for that. So there's just me right now as a facilitator for the working group, and we really need at least one other person. So if anyone is interested in helping run the meeting, not be an expert, not know everything, not know all the people, just being able to come to the meeting, and if I'm not here or Dawn's not here or something like that, you can help run it, get everyone to add their names to the agenda, run through the agenda, ensure that people who have their hand up, get recognized, all that kind of stuff. Just making sure the meetings happen and everyone is able to participate equally. So if anyone's interested in that, please reach out to me or Dawn or Josh or someone, and we can talk about that.
I'd love to. I just need to figure out my schedule as well. That's gonna take like a couple of weeks until I have a more fixed schedule. So
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not like there's a limit. The more people who are able to rotate through and help with notes, running the meeting, all that sort of stuff, just makes everyone's lives easier.
Yeah.
All right. So Allie had to drop, I think. We have an article here about beginning contributing to open source. If you haven't seen it already, this is live. This is the real thing. First, I am so proud of everyone involved, editing this, writing it, getting it out. This is the fastest we've ever put out really high quality content. And my heart is bursting. I'm really excited about this. So please read it. We have a blog post from the CNCF to help promote it. Rian, if you want to talk through this, because this is kind of your thing, it's gonna give you a chance.
Yeah, great job. Congrats to everyone involved.
Thank you.
And yeah, great job.
Yeah, thanks for all the reviews. Yes, I am very new to open, probably the newest to open source everybody here. And I come from a very closed work environment, very non-exposing, and the blog is probably the most exposure that I have granted myself publicly in a long time. So I'm open sourcing my life here. And yeah, it's basically the blog and the article is my experience over the last 3 years stepping into open source.
Sorry, I was on mute. I think we have the blog announcement. We are also going to ask, I can ask CNCF to, if anyone wants to tweet something and then ask them to retweet it. And I can put something, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I can put something on a Mastodon and I'll link it in the tag so that we can help boost that as well. But if someone's on Twitter and would like to put together a tweet, we can ask the CNCF to retweet for us about the blog post, probably more about the article actually itself, just because the blog post, the CNCF will promote themselves too. And this is something that we'll want to boost over time. So this isn't just a one and done. Every so often this content will be in our rotation of things that will remind people it exists, because, you know, depending when things are posted and what's going on in people's lives, it's always good to give them a fresh chance to see it, if that makes sense.
And also interesting experience just about after we got the PR merged, I was helping one of our mentors for this release. And we discussed authentication and SSH, and I got a blank reaction. I said, oh, that also need to go in the doc. So as I speak to people and see what they don't know, which is as obvious as just make that PR and you don't even know what SSH keys are. So I added a paragraph for that. So if you get any questions from people that you think should be in there as well, or asking clarification on things, throw it my way or write your own edition, and we just keep on expanding it. And I think it's a nice comprehensive top to bottom explaining where to go.
Yeah, I think having like a living document, something that is evergreen, we keep updating and keep up with the latest. That'll be super useful. Thanks for hard work there. It's amazing to see this through.
And I think all those one-line questions that we get about how can I contribute? Please read this.
Yeah, that's gonna help.
One-line answer for one-line questions.
Would someone like to post that in the maintainers circle channel, just to let maintainers know about that? And then it's a great resource for what you just said, redirecting eager new contributors.
I can do that. Maintain a circle channel on Slack.
Yeah.
I can look at that.
Because at the moment that Slack channel is our best way to reach maintainers at the moment. So there's a whole bunch of people in there, and this is, it's for new contributors, but this is also a lot for maintainers too, so that they can make people aware of the content. I get questions all the time about, for example, that SSH key token, DCO, all that kind of stuff. So being able to just send someone to the article is great. Looks like that's the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that we needed to talk about before we wrap things up?
Just thanks for bringing me in or listening to me go on about roadmaps. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you for coming. This has been
Yeah, thanks for coming.
invaluable.
You're welcome anytime. We would love to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laurie.
Yeah, that's so much knowledge. Thanks. That was pretty great. Awesome to have that knowledge in here.
It's very kind. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
You too.